Buenos dias, good morning from the central bus station here in the center of Guadalajara. I'm about to take a bus to one of the most interesting places of this state and of Mexico in general. And a perfect place for a very special video. My last one from Mexico for a while. So, let's check this place out. I'll see you there. Vamos! Right guys, an hour later we've made it to our destination, the town of Chapala, which is an hour bus drive south of Guadalajara and which borders the famous Lago de Chapala, the Chapala Lake. More on that in a bit. As this is my last vlog from Mexico, my last video here in Mexico for a while, I want to do something special today. As you well know, I love this country. I would even consider it my favorite country. But as every person in this world, every city in this world and every country in this world has its ups and downs. And thus today I'm going to try to name five things I hate about Mexico and which you should watch out for when you come to Mexico. This is the food I went for. Tacos dorados with chicken and rice and salad. For a whopping 45 pesos, so 2.5 euros. It's alright if you ask me. The food in Mexico, I repeat myself, is second to none. Now why am I going for a 5 things I don't like or hate about Mexico video? Well guys, if I had to go for a video about the things I love about Mexico, well it would surely be more than 5. I reckon that would be a video of 2 hours or something. So yeah, I'll go for the easier version. And I'll tell you the things that you have to look out for when coming to Mexico, the things I don't like about the country. Coffee surely ain't one of those things. Flippin' love Mexican coffee. Now let's start guys. The first thing that I don't like about Mexico, that I hate about Mexico, is that compared to other countries, to other Latin American countries I've recently visited, it's starting to get a lot more expensive. Yes, Mexico is starting to get expensive, especially when it comes to accommodation and foods. It's still, don't get me wrong, I'm a Western European and it's still a lot cheaper than any Western European country or the US or Canada or Australia. Still, it's still a cheap country for people from these places. But compared to Colombia, Peru, Argentina, and also, quite frankly, to Eastern Europe, to countries such as Romania, Albania, Montenegro, Kosovo, compared to these countries, Mexico is actually quite expensive these days, and it's getting more and more expensive. And yeah, for one reason, it's actually for good reason, a reason which makes me happy. Mexico is one of the fastest economically growing countries in the world these days. Mexico's economy is as fastly growing as not many others in the world. Mexico has overtaken Russia and Turkey when it comes to the GDP. And Mexico is slowly becoming a very rich nation. But the negative thing is that the people here in Mexico are not getting richer. When I say Mexico is getting expensive, I'm not only talking about traveling here, you know, about my perspective. I'm also talking about the perspective of the Mexican people, because in Mexico people don't earn more. Like, everything is getting more expensive, but people are not earning more. Life for the Mexicans here is also getting more expensive, and this is a bad thing, because for me already, as a Western European, I've been here less than a year ago, the last time, and I already see a difference in prices. Obviously, fair enough, the euro has got weaker, the Mexican peso has got stronger. That's also one of the reasons, but yeah, I see that accommodation, food is getting more expensive compared to last year. Also, prices in the supermarkets are more expensive. The salaries of the Mexican people haven't increased, so Mexico has to either stop, the Mexican government has to either stop increasing its prices or has to start increasing the salaries of its people. The second thing which I don't like about Mexico, or hate about Mexico, is people, bartenders, especially bartenders and waiters, harassing you for tips. Yes, in Mexico, I've got to say that you get a lot less harassed for money as a foreigner than in Colombia, Peru, or Argentina by homeless people or whatever. But in Mexico, it's like standard, it's like a habit here in Mexico that when you're in a bar or in a restaurant, at the end when you ask your bill, the bartender is always going to tell you, like, tips are not included. Like, or even worse, sometimes they even tell you, yeah, could you give me tips? And don't get me wrong, it's not that I am a greedy person that never ever gives tips. But I don't like, I hate it when people ask for it. I just hate it, because I think in my eyes, you know, I understand these people, they don't make a lot of money. And they see a white person like me and think he's got money, he's from a rich country. I can completely understand this, but I hate it when people ask for it. I hate it when people ask for tips. And usually I don't give tips when people ask for it, because then in my eyes, you don't deserve them. Quite simple. And ironically, this ain't the case when you go to like a small taqueria or eat some street food or something. These people are never gonna ask for tips. But when you are going to a bar or a more upper class, upper scale restaurant, they are always gonna, like, yeah, harass you for tips. And when you at the end don't give any tips, like give the exact amount, they're always a bit like pissed when you didn't give anything. And last time, like 2 days ago, I was at the bar in Guadalajara having a drink, and the barkeeper, I had like 20 pesos of change to get from him when I paid my bill, and he literally asked me, can I keep the 20 pesos as a tip? And I was like, well, now that you've asked for it, I wanted to give it to him, but the fact that he's literally asked me to keep it, I said no, I want the 20 pesos. I want my €1 and a few cents. And he was like, okay. And then he made me wait. The guy made me wait like 10 minutes to give him my 20 pesos. And he was literally passing by 3 times and turning his head and looking at me, looking if I was still sitting there. Because I reckon most tourists, most Europeans and Americans would have just said at some point, oh, alright, he's just taking the piss, let's get up, fuck that €1 or $1, let's leave. But I didn't. You have to stand your ground. I was sitting there until he gave me my 20 pesos. And eventually he gave me my 20 pesos. Because you've got to understand, Mexican barkeepers and waiters watching this, that not every white person that you see is a rich gringo tourist. There's also many white people here that are broke backpackers like me, or yeah, budget travelers, and not everyone can afford to give like a 20% tip at every meal or every drink. It's just impossible. Number 3 of things I hate about Mexico and which Mexico needs to improve: corrupt police and probably government. Don't get me wrong, Mexico still for me is a lot safer than any Western European country, especially the cities, and also probably the US. I feel so safe here. Honestly, it's one of the safest places I've been to. But if there are people that you as a tourist need to be scared of, it is the police. Now, I'm not gonna say, I don't want to discriminate here. There are also good policemen in Mexico. I mean, not every policeman in Mexico is corrupt or a bad person, but there are many bad policemen here in Mexico, and it's a common thing. I mean, me myself, I got robbed once last year by the Mexican police, and it was something which tends to happen to all the travelers, to all the gringos that come here, like being ripped off by the police. I was at an OXXO, at a small OXXO in Mexico City in the morning having a coffee, and then a police car with 2 policemen inside pulled up and just picked me out and said, "You, what are you doing here?" I said, "I'm having a coffee at the OXXO." And they were like, "Can we control you? Like, standard control?" And I was like, "Alright, why not? I had nothing to hide." One of them gave me, body checked me, whilst the other controlled my funny bag. And there were like 300 pesos inside. It lasted for about 2 minutes. Then they said Merry Christmas. It was on Christmas Day, by the way. When I got my funny bag back, all of the money was gone. Obviously I was lucky that it was only 300 pesos. If there was more inside, they would have taken it all. And they wished me a Merry Christmas, by the way. These cons. And that is not the worst thing. That is the worst thing that happened to me personally. But I know many people, friends of mine or travelers that I've met on my trips here in Mexico, which had worse experiences. A friend of mine got arrested for 2 days and spent 2 nights in a cell because he pissed on the beach. He peed on the beach, and then the police came and invented that it was illegal and stuff. They invented some charges. He got taken to the police station and spent 2 nights in a cell because he didn't have a passport on him and he didn't have any money on him to pay the charges that were put against him. And it was for peeing. 2 nights in a cell for peeing. And believe it or not, I've met 2 other people that had the exact same experience. And it's not only for travelers that the police of Mexico is scary, also for the people of Mexico, and mostly for the people of Mexico. I've talked about this before in my first video from Guadalajara. Remember, many people disappear here in Mexico. Boys and girls, women and men. And it's often the cartels that are the reason behind the disappearances. And the cartels are often protected by the police. And it is a sad truth about this country. And Mexico needs to change this. A girl I had a relationship with from Guadalajara last year, she told me a very sad story. Like, there is a saying in Guadalajara that when you are walking as a girl alone at night and you've got the impression that somebody is following you, it's better to get raped or whatever than to call the police. They say, the women of Guadalajara, because the police would do many worse things to you. don't get me wrong, there are also good policemen in Mexico that are not corrupt and are good people. But Mexico still has a problem with corruption, and of course with corrupt policemen and corrupt politicians. And yeah, it is pretty scary that many people disappear here from one day to another, and the police are doing nothing about it, but most of the time know what's going on. And Mexico needs to take care of this. But apart from that, I still, believe it or not, consider Mexico like one of the safest countries, if not the safest country that I've been to. It's safer here than in Belgium, France, England, the Netherlands, Germany. I feel safe here. And yeah, Viva Mexico, I can only repeat myself. But take care of your corrupt police. Right guys, we've made it to the main attraction of Chapala. The reason to come here. Check it out, the Lago de Chapala, which happens to be Mexico's biggest lake. It borders both the state of Jalisco, which we are in right now, and the state of Michoacan. I didn't come here the last time I was here, so I figured that this was a great place to check out and a great spot for the final video here in beautiful Mexico, mi amor. Number 4 of things I don't like about Mexico, or things I hate about Mexico. This is a funny one. People are too friendly. Yes, the Mexicans are just too friendly. In Mexico, it happens that you get into a random conversation with some strangers, and that conversation, it's not like in Europe where people are cold, where people just say like hello and goodbye. Here in Mexico, you could have a random conversation with some random stranger which could last for 1 or 2 hours. People here are just too friendly. You've seen it in the market video, in the market back in Guadalajara, in the last video. Like people just gifting you things, gifting you tomatoes, vegetables. Like when you go to a supermarket and you don't have enough cash on you, you don't have any change, people are often gonna say it's alright. Or people just buying you bus tickets. Those are things that only happen in Mexico. In Europe, you won't find a place where people are just gifting you things, just strangers, like random strangers gifting you things or talking to you for like more than an hour. And yes, this makes Mexico and Mexican people the greatest in the world. And yeah, I hate that about the country because it makes you not want to leave. It makes you not want to go to other places. It makes you hate your own place that you're from. Because in your country or in your continent, your region, people aren't like that. And it makes you realize that if more people were like Mexican people in this world, then this world would be a better place. I'm sorry to say it. So it's not that I hate or don't like the fact that Mexican people are so genuine and the friendliest, but it's the fact that it makes you hate other places. It makes you hate the way people are in other countries because you wonder, why ain't the whole world like the Mexican people? Number 5, and the final thing I hate about Mexico. The country is too interesting. I would even say it's addictive. Mexico is addictive. The country is so diverse and so authentic and has so much to offer that, you know, in the last 18 months or so, I've been to Mexico for about 3 months in total. I came here the first time on a 10-12 day trip to Quintana Roo. It was a holiday, I still had a job back then, back in my country. And I fell in love with the country immediately and said to myself, I need to go back ASAP and see more of it. Then a few months later I came back on a 2-month backpacking trip on which I've spent a bit over 6 weeks in Mexico and a bit over like 1.5 weeks in Colombia. And as you know, I came back to both countries on this trip to show them to you. And in regards to Mexico, I've spent so much time already in this country. A country which offers deserts, mountains, jungle, beautiful coastlines, and even, as you can see, a beautiful lake with a small beach. This country has it all. And you know what I hate about this is that Mexico is addictive, because you miss out on other places. You know, I would like to see many other places in the world. I would like to see the whole world, but I'd always come back here. Also in the near future I'll be back again, because I just love it here. Mexico is addictive. Once you come here, you'll fall in love with the country and you want to see more. And to see all of it, you know, it's very difficult, but not impossible. I mean, Mexico has 32 states. I've now been, including Tabasco, where I was where I was only at the airport, and what's the other state called? Yucatan, including Yucatan, where I was only at Chichen Itza for a day. Including these two, I've already been to 9 states of Mexico, which is not bad, but still, I'm missing like 23 to complete the set. For instance, I've never been to the north, I've never been to Baja California, I've also never been to the center. So I'll be back many times, probably with you guys, to explore more. But what do I hate? What does this have to do with the fact that I hate that about Mexico? Well, the thing is, just like with the friendly people, it makes me not want to go to another country and other places. On this trip, I started off in Argentina and Peru and Colombia on purpose, because I didn't want to go straight back to Mexico again. In fact, when I left my country in September, like 2.5 months ago at time of recording, for Argentina, I didn't yet plan to come to Mexico. I didn't yet plan it, but I had it in mind, obviously. And here I am, back again. And yeah, Mexico is addictive. That's what I don't like about it, because it makes you not want to go to other countries and other places in the world. It's just the best in my eyes. And yes, I'll be back many times in my life, because I love it. I really love it. And I think this is a good moment to end the video as well. My final video here in Mexico for some time. I'll be leaving the country soon. When you see this video, I'll already be, spoiler alert, I'll be back in South America. Back in a country we've been to together quite recently, in which I've got a feeling that we've got unfinished business. So at time of recording, at time of you seeing this video, sorry, I won't be in Mexico anymore. This is my last video from here. And not forever, I'll be back. I'll be back probably next year at some point. I'll be back again. I'm addicted to Mexico. That's what I don't like about it. And yes guys, Mexico is a country which you should visit once in your life, wherever you're from and wherever you're watching this video from. Maybe you are Mexican and are super proud and happy of what I've just said about your country, but this country for me is just the best in the world. There are other great places and countries in the world, but Mexico for me just tops them all. And you've got to visit this country at least once in your life. And if it will be possible for me to complete the set of 32 Mexican states in my life, I will do it. I would really love to do it. Seeing the whole world is impossible, but having small goals like completing Mexico, or complete in South America in terms of countries. It's doable. As you can see from this video, it's impossible for me to even find 5 things which I hate about Mexico. I could only find 3, and I really had to think. To even find those 3. Mexico is a blast. Amigos, México, te quiero. Hasta luego. Voy volver muy pronto. Viva México, cabrones. Viva México, para siempre, carnales.